Welcome to Direction Northeast. Hello, I'm Joey Morris. This program is a presentation of the Communications Department of Northeast State Community College. This episode of Direction Northeast is about synthetic drugs and how communities can change the laws that govern their sale. We'll start our discussion following these messages.
Northeast State's a wonderful place to start your career in college, and the campus is beautiful, the teachers are one-on-one.
It was an excellent decision to come to Northeast State. I've learned so much coming here.
I love the school, and everyone is friendly here. This has been the best time of my life. I have really enjoyed being here.
I think if it hadn't been for Northeast, then I wouldn't feel as happy and as driven if I chose another school.
Step by step, Northeast State is here to get you there. Enroll now at northeaststate.edu.
You can't watch a newscast or read a paper without seeing the controversy over synthetic or herbal drugs. Recent deaths and local police operations have caused public concern and protests around the stores that sell these products. Today we'll examine what these drugs are doing and how we can regulate them. Our guests for this special discussion are, on my left, District Attorney General for Sullivan County Barry Staubus, and on his left, from Frontier Mental Health, Mrs. Nina Hancock. And to my right is Director of Police and Public Safety for Northeast Community College, Chief John Edens. General Staubus, my first question is to you. Explain to me exactly what synthetic drugs are and what terms like bath salts and K2 mean.
Well, synthetic drugs and the terms bath salts are basically terms that are given for stimulative drugs that are man-made chemicals. They have the effects of causing people to be combative, to be agitated, to be psychotic, and they're very dangerous drugs. And they're given a variety of names, but they all basically are a class of drugs that are man-made that right now, for the most part, are legal in Tennessee.
Primarily, who's using them?
What we're seeing are young people. They're targeted for young people, but we're seeing a whole demographics. We're seeing older folks, we're seeing younger people, and we're seeing even teenagers and in even middle school.
Now, we have federal and state laws already on our books that deal with these products. Why are they so difficult to enforce?
Well, the legislature last year passed a bill to outlaw the sale of synthetic drugs. However, they define the drugs by their specific chemical composition. And what happened with the individuals that sell, distribute, manufacture these drugs begin to vary the chemical composition ever so slightly to put them outside the definition of law. So because they're not the specifically defined drugs, because they've been altered purposely, then they become legal. And so it became a problem that they were selling drugs that were not and did not fit the definition of the current law in Tennessee.
Mrs. Hancock, talk to me some about the effects of these drugs on the user.
Well, some of the physical effects have to do with heart problems. There are heart attacks. There's arrhythmias, increased heart rate. There's increased body temperature. There are seizures. A lot of my kids are reporting either having had or knowing someone that's had a seizure. And then, of course, the ERs are seeing people that are presenting with all of these problems. There's also emotional and mental health type issues. There's paranoia. There can be hallucinations, a sense of depersonalization. You aren't who you are, or there are all kinds of hallucinations from things you're seeing where you think there's officers, or that something's happening to you that's not happening. And what we're finding is this can be temporary or it can be permanent, which is very scary. To permanently be in a psychotic state is damaging to your life, to any kind of future that you would want to have. To temporarily is risky because you can do behaviors that will put you at risk or those around you. We're also noticing people are being very irritable, very combative, agitated. Their mood can go from tearful to angry in a matter of seconds. They have trouble communicating, telling you what is going on, thinking whether they can even trust you to tell you what's going on.
And that's the symptoms at the time that they're taking the drug. What about long-term effects? You mentioned psychosis that potentially could last on and on.
Well, and because it's so new, we really don't know what the long-term effects are going to be. What I am seeing is a highly addictive pattern. I think we're going to see, well, we're already seeing in the midst of the use some depression, some suicide ideation, and then gesture, and we're just seeing a lot of different problems with that. As far as long term, we're not 100% sure. I think we're going to see depression. I think even when people get away from the drug, we're going to see it taken, we don't know how long, maybe even months, to try to readjust with some of the mood, the irritability, and the depression.
In my research, I read an interview with a drug rehab counselor, and he said that every patient he spoke with who had tried these drugs said they hated the high that it provided and that they never wanted to do it again. But as soon as they had the opportunity, they did it again. Is it because it's so highly addictive, do you think?
I would say for the ones that are hating it and taking it again, it's definitely part of the addiction syndrome. Now, some of my kids, most of my kids will say they don't like, for example, the synthetic marijuana or the fake vape. They don't like that high better than the marijuana high, but trying to be not detected, they will do that. But then some of the kids do like that. They don't like the bad trip. Sometimes they do have a euphoric feeling. Sometimes they do like the sensations. But most of those kids, even the ones that do like the roulette buzz, I've even had a kid call that, even though the kids that do like the roulette buzz, even those kids have had some bad experience. Most kids are reporting some bad trip.
When you use the term roulette buzz, you mean it's a figure of speech, meaning they don't know what's going to happen.
They don't know what type of buzz they're going to get, a body buzz, a high, a good euphoric feeling, or a low and paranoid and scared kind of feeling. I mean, it can be any of those. And it can vary product to product and person to person, buzz to buzz.
Okay. Chief Edens, in the past week, I've heard several discussions going on campus, knowing that this forum was going to be happening. And I've listened to several of my classmates say that they've tried these synthetic drugs, and they really don't think it's any big deal. Is campus security seeing evidence of use by Northeast State students?
Well, you know, Northeast State Community College, I mean, we're a public college, open to the public. And, you know, the best way I can describe that would be when Dr. Gillum came a few years ago. She asked me point blank the question, do we have a drug problem on campus? And I guess I answered her question by giving her a question. I said, why wouldn't we have a drug problem on campus? I said, we're part of the community. The increase in synthetic drugs that we're seeing that General Staubus has talked about, yes, it's on this campus, and it's a problem. We've identified, we found K2, we found bath salts. You know, some students say that they can take it, it's no big deal. I think Ms. Hancock addressed that issue. You know, some people can take it and they experience euphoric high. Other people can take it, get extremely paranoid. I know the Sullivan County Sheriff's Department, in my training, I went to, they talked about a call that Sullivan County Dispatch got, which is an example, where a gentleman called one night, was screaming in the phone, saying he needed to get an officer to his residence because there was a bunch of FBI agents raping his grandmother. And when the officers got over there, he was in a mobile home by himself. So, I mean, I wouldn't describe that as no big deal. It's a very, very dangerous, synthetic drugs are extremely dangerous. And it's like Ms. Hancock said, it's like playing Russian roulette. You know, it's a serious problem in this community. It's a serious legal problem. It's a serious medical problem. And it's got to be dealt with.
But the fact that they're legally obtained is part of the problem, isn't it? It seems to me that so many of the people that I hear that say they've used them think that because it's legal, it must be okay.
That's exactly right. You know, like General Staubus said, he's on the leading edge of a contingent in Upper East Tennessee trying to get the law changed so we can do something about this. I mean, the problem is it came upon us just so suddenly. And I know General Staubus could probably talk about how it came to East Tennessee. He's got some good information there, but it kind of just hit the community by surprise.
And before we leave this subject, what are some of the measures that your officers are taking to combat this problem?
Well, we're trained in identifying not only synthetic drug use but other drug use, and we're actively pursuing it. We're asking people, even though it's not illegal, if we hear of students that are using drugs at this time, I mean, we try to get them to counseling, we try to get them help. We're trying to do everything we can do to, we don't want to see anybody get hurt. That's the bottom line. And we're trying to do everything we can to help.
Are there resources available, people that they can talk to, counselors here on campus?
We have, I would strongly suggest go to Sue Robertson, the college nurse. She can direct them to some outside agencies to get them some help. We have some limited counseling through Denise Walker. Want to stop by, and she can also assist.
Okay, great. Now, Mr. Staubus, I understand you were in Nashville this week to propose new legislation that would regulate bath salts. Is it similar to Virginia's, which focuses on the effects that these drugs have and less on the content of the drug itself?
Well, the legislation has been, there's several proposals, and they all kind of complement each other. But basically, the legislation is combining parts of Virginia, parts of the Florida statute, and then another element. And what they're giving prosecutors basically are some different tools, different options. One, to look at the effects of the drug. Second, to look at the circumstances which the drug is sold. And third, to look and determine whether this drug is a derivative of what is already illegal. So we're wanting to maintain these options so that law enforcement, when they investigate the case, have different options to develop a case, and that when we get into the courtroom, that we'll have various types and different elements and evidence in which a jury could look at and determine whether or not this individual has, in fact, sold synthetic drugs. So we're looking at a statute that's comprehensive, that covers a lot of different areas, that will give us everything we need to really combat this epidemic.
And it seems like localities are having to argue for legislation and on an individual basis. I'm wondering why, if these products are coming into our country from other countries, I'm wondering why there isn't more federal legislation keep stopping the import.
Well, my focus has been on the state level because I am the district attorney in Sullivan County, and the law, I have to enforce and prosecute the laws of Tennessee. So my focus has been on getting a legislative solution in the state of Tennessee, but I don't want to leave the impression that we are working closely with federal authorities, and they have an investigative effort going on into the same area, and there are legislative efforts being made on the federal level. And that's one good thing that's come out of this, I have seen, is that we're having basically people from all facets of our community come together. We've had local politicians, local leaders, we've had our state legislators, we've had county officials, we've had medical personnel, teachers, law enforcement, prosecutors, federal law enforcement, federal prosecutors, all coming together to seek a solution for this. So it's being done on the state level, and that's been my focus because that's what I have jurisdiction over, and that's what my concern is. But, you know, there are also other states that are doing the same thing, and there's also an effort being made on the federal level to criminalize this and to effectively investigate and seek arrests on that level as well. So we're working together, and I think that's important for the public to know. It's not just Sullivan County, it's not just the state of Tennessee, it's not just the Commonwealth of Virginia, but it's also other states and also federal authorities.
That is an important point. Thank you. Mrs. Hancock, because there's been such a rise in number of people needing medical attention because they've used these drugs, how are health professionals handling the influx?
Well, we're committing a tremendous amount of resources, from what I understand, from all of the area emergency rooms. I heard one director of one of the area's emergency rooms say that as many as 20 staff are involved with one case as they come in. I know that every shift is seeing cases, and maybe even 3 and 4 in a shift. So we're committing a tremendous amount of resources, both money and staff time and effort. And each one of those cases represents a family that would claim it's a very big deal. When you have your 17-year-old in the emergency room for a heart attack, it's a big deal. When your child has become combative and beaten at the walls, that's a big deal. So for people that are saying it's not a big deal, I think at this point you almost have to be in such denial about the problems that are around you. Now, is it a big deal every time? There are times the high goes fine, but don't let that lull you into thinking that it's okay to use, because then when you do want to stop, or what you're going to get as you're using is not what you want. It's not the buzz chasing, of course, is a problem. There'll always be something that people are trying to chase a buzz on. And the pleasure principle is very powerful. That's why drugs are done. It feels good. And drugs are no respecter of person. They'll get a hold of any person from any walk of life with any level of intelligence and from any type of family. And then what it does is drag it down. And what we're seeing with these synthetics is I'm seeing a drag down very quickly. And so I would caution anyone that's either using or thinking about using those, you really are playing roulette with your life, your mind, your mood, you won't, and your personality. You will be a different person, either in moments or for a lifetime because of the use.
Chief Edens, from a law enforcement perspective, how are law enforcement dealing with the incredible amount of drug use they're seeing, synthetic drug use they're seeing in this area?
Well, it's extremely difficult. Like we heard from Officer Murray earlier in what we've seen on campus. I mean, it kind of goes back to the question you asked some students, say it's no big deal. Go talk to law enforcement officers that had to use tasers, that had 4 or 5 officers that had to wrestle somebody to the ground, that officers that get hurt. Go talk to, like General Staubus said earlier, that the 6 family members of this community, we had 6 deaths. Go ask their family members if it's a big deal or not. I mean the evidence there. Go ask the emergency room doctors. I mean, the way we deal with it, like I say, it's a tremendous problem. It's a safety issue. It's a medical issue. It's an epidemic that's just got to be stopped.
Do you think with all the media attention that these drugs have received, do you think that that's changed the way that people view marijuana or even meth as maybe not such a big deal anymore?
Well, I've been encouraged over the last few weeks because, like we say, it kind of just really hit this community. The community awareness on this is probably, I would say, over the last 3 to 6 months. Would you agree, General Staubus, as far as, and during that time frame, I've seen numerous, the local news media has done a tremendous job of highlighting this problem. And we've seen the communities stand up in protest. I know in Gray, Tennessee, a good example, a couple of these quote unquote head shops have been shut down. I think it's doing a lot of good, and but I think we can't stop. We've got to push even harder.
General Staubus, what about the store owners? I mean, don't they have a responsibility to the citizens to stop selling these drugs to the people of East Tennessee?
Well, I think it's certainly unquestionable that anyone sells this knows they're selling a dangerous drug, and they know that they're selling it to minors. They're selling to anyone that walks in there that has the money. They're making a lot of money. It's very lucrative. However, they also know it's legal, and they are making vast sums of money off this. And as long as it's legal, they're not going to ask any questions. They're not going to be concerned, in my opinion, about the welfare of the folks that come in there. Their customers, whether they're 14 years old or 44, they don't care. If they get the cash and they can sell it and there's no legal repercussions, there's no deterrent, they're going to continue doing it. And that's why we're pushing so hard on a legislative level to make the law where we can close the loophole, where we can combat this problem, this epidemic, and we have the tools to investigate the cases, to make arrests, to prosecute, convict. Right now we don't have it, and as long as we don't have it, there will be people selling right out and open in the public, opening up stores, opening up doors and saying, come in here and buy something. Basically, come in here and play Russian roulette. Come in here and pick a drug and see what happens. And walk out. They don't care what happens once they leave. I'm sure they would prefer they live so they could come back and get repeat business. But that's not their main concern. Their main concern is to make money. And my main concern is to shut them down, to save lives, save homes, save families, save children. And we can't do it with the law we have in effect now. Law enforcement's worked hard. Mental health, medical folks are working hard to save lives. People out in the community are out raising awareness. They're doing what they can. But ultimately, from my perspective as a prosecutor, I need a law. I need the right law. I need one that gives us the real ability in a meaningful way to prevent them from going out in the open and doing what they're doing.
Well, bringing this back to the individual, and I'll ask this question starting with you, but I'd like each of you to comment on it. Other than legal restraints, what other methods do you see as being practical in controlling and hopefully eradicating this problem?
Well, I'm not naive enough to think that just because we pass a law people aren't going to want to sell drugs and people aren't going to buy them. But that's one step, and that's what I can do as a prosecutor. But I would say to people what they need to do. If you're a parent, you're a grandparent, you're an uncle, you're a Sunday school teacher, or if you're involved as a teacher with children, first you need to educate yourself. You need to know exactly what these drugs are. You need to know what the effects are. You need to know what the effects they have on individuals. You need to know all about it. You need to educate yourself. Then you need to sit down as a parent or someone who cares about children, and you need to talk to them. You need to make them aware of the dangers. You need to communicate with them. And then you need to go out into your community and talk to your friends. If you're in the PTA, if you're a coach, if you're involved in other community organizations, you need to go out and talk and spread that education to them. If you're a young person and you know about it, you need to talk to your friends and say, don't do it. This is why you shouldn't do it. And finally, I think you should let your local legislators know that you are supportive, that you appreciate all the hard work they're doing to try to get the right law passed. So those are the things I think that individuals have to do. I think you start with your home, your immediate family, you spread out in your community, and then you finally, if you go out and talk to the politicians, the elected officials, and tell them, thanks for what you're doing. Keep doing it. Don't let any obstacles get in the way. We know what kind of problem it is. We don't want it here in Sullivan County.
Mrs. Hancock, you deal with kids every day and their families. Is that good advice? Do the parents need to be talking to their kids about?
Yes, and I'm particularly proud of the media in the area and how they have tried to make this a topic, because I do think education matters. I spend a lot of my day, every day, trying to battle both abuse and addiction. One of the things he's talking about is he's trying to arrest access, and whatever drug is available is what's abused. So when we're talking access, and then with the legalities, consequence. And I think both of those things fit into breaking through denial, breaking through why do I need to change this. And then I think you need to focus on what replacements do you do. What do you put in your life if you're going to take the buzz chasing or the addiction out? How do you develop a life that's not about trying to get high? So all of those elements are there. I'm talking every chance I get to any group of kids I get about the dangers. For the kids that see danger and make the smart choice to avoid the danger, or adults that do that, I think kids are talking to kids now, and I think there is a belief that it's not just somebody on a stage that's saying this is dangerous. Kids are saying it's dangerous. Families are saying it's dangerous. So I think that helps. It helps give validity to it. But it's also living life without having to have a chemical to feel better. So you've got to figure out how to feel better other ways. So I focus a lot with the kids and the families of what do you do? What do you replace it with? And for the kids that haven't started yet, what do you do that you focus on? That doesn't work. There's all kinds of things, and the brain gets reworked. When you're putting something regularly in your body, and I would say the brains don't know how to handle with the synthetics. They're trying to adjust, and that's what you see with the addictive pattern. You see intense cravings and a difficulty stopping, even when you're convinced that that's what you need to do.
Chief Edens, what would you add to that?
Well, I think both of them give very good answers, and there's not a whole lot I can add to it other than just to kind of summarize, I guess, what I was thinking when they're going through it is just from a law enforcement officer's perspective, my profession, I think we have a duty to enforce the laws stringently and get good laws passed, like General Staubus talked about, number one. Number two, we all should go the extra step of the education side. I think that's extremely important. And number three, I mean, I'm one of those, like maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I believe if you tell people just say no and just keep reinforcing that. I think that does have some impact on some people. And lastly, if there's someone that's addicted to drugs, do what you can to get them some help. And don't let people spread bad rumors. You know, like the students say, well, I took it, it's no big deal. I mean, that's wrong. It's clearly wrong. They need to understand that, yes, it is a big deal. And I say all that with the understanding that no matter what you do, you're never going to totally eradicate the drug problem. You're not going to. I mean, it's impossible. People are going to do things. But if you take those steps, I think you will reduce it drastically.
Ms. Hancock, talk to me just a little bit about, you're in the trenches with these kids every day. Talk to me about a situation that did not have a happy ending.
Well, I keep a picture in my desk of a student that a mother gave to me who overdosed. Now, this is a combination of drugs. And this is, and I've watched just the family and the aftermath of having to do that. I tell kids drugs are designed to steal, kill, and destroy. And of course, I think of death as the ultimate destruction. So, and until that happens, to me, there's still hope in fighting the battle. But people are tortured with the battle of addiction. And that wasn't a synthetic case, but I'm afraid that it's only a matter of time before I have that. An amazing young person. They have tremendous potential and tremendous talents and skills. So anytime that drugs are stealing the motivation to care about pursuing their education, to care about their family, to put in the high above others, even their freedom, to me that's tremendous damage. And so those hurt my heart. Yeah.
General Staubus, I'd ask you the same thing because you're in court seeing how the crimes that are committed affect families and affect individuals because this has a ripple effect. What would you say?
Well, I can tell you, as 18 years as a prosecutor, I can tell you probably 80 to 90% of all drugs stem from substance abuse, whether it's synthetic drugs or cocaine or methamphetamines, pills. At the base of most our criminal behavior are drugs because they change the personalities of individuals. They make people desperate to, they'll commit crimes to purchase drugs because then the influence, they will commit drugs that they will commit offenses that affect other individuals, whether they're behind the wheel and wreck, or whether they kill someone, or whether they rob someone at gunpoint to get them. Synthetic drugs, the same pattern's going to be there. When you have combative people, police officers are at real risk of being hurt. Medical personnel are at real risk of being hurt. When they're delusional and paranoid and believe that police officers are out to get them or other individuals are out to get them, other individuals are going to get hurt. And there's a broader sense. If you're a parent and you take these drugs, you're destroying your family. If you're a young person, you're destroying your family. You're destroying the real cement of our society. You know, if we have a wave of crime, it affects our schools, it affects homes, it affects our neighborhoods, and ultimately, particularly for young people, it can be a real tragedy. I mean, the ultimate price that we see the effects on the child themselves if they end up dead. If I end up having to, as I do as a district attorney, I read every autopsy in the county. You know, that's a real tragedy when you pick up an autopsy and see someone that otherwise could have had a fruitful, productive life, and they don't, and it's because of the drugs.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap up Direction Northeast.
Personal, affordable, convenient. That's Northeast State in a nutshell. Find your path to success through our wide variety of programs and nearby locations. Whatever brings you here, Northeast State offers a smart start to a 4-year degree or the choice of several technical programs, giving you direct entry into the workforce. Northeast State Community College. Wherever you're going, we're here to get you there.
That concludes the program for today. We talked about synthetic drugs and how they might be regulated. I'd like to thank our guests for their time and insight on this problem. District Attorney General of Sullivan County Barry Staubus, and on his left, Frontier Health Professional Mrs. Nina Hancock. And to my right, Director of Police and Safety for Northeast State Community College, Chief John Edens. Community is very important to the students at Northeast State Community College, and this program takes a look at a few of the subjects they find important. Until we meet next time, on behalf of the students, staff, and faculty of Northeast State Community College, I'm Joey Morris, and this is Direction Northeast.